Welcome to another episode of Artsy AF Podcast. Man, this podcast is a groundbreaker. For one thing, we've got yesterday when we were about to leave, I hit up John. I was like, you ready to go, champ? And he said, man, no, I'm feeling kind of sick. Got that lethargy. I got those flu symptoms. Probably a premonition of the insane cold front that just rolled through the Front Range of Colorado. Guys, we went from 78 degrees yesterday to like 28 today, with even lower temps in the nighttime. And I'm not going to be a meteorologist or anything, but I think the body is pretty attuned to things like that and can feel it coming. Maybe his body was like, winter's coming, a la Game of Thrones, and he was just not feeling it, couldn't make it. And so I said, you know what, is it cool if I just do this one solo to the dolo? And he said, yeah, man, yeah, absolutely. So this is our first podcast with only one interviewer. And I gotta say, I think I did a pretty good job. I sort of channeled John's equanimity and level-headedness. Didn't make too many jokes. Things didn't go off the rails too much. I had some pre-prepared questions for Mr. Patrick Boyle, aka Digital Vagabond. And man, Patty, big ups to Pat. He is a DJ, a producer. He helps run Lost in Sound, which is a record label. They've done interviews, they've done articles. They're just a pillar of the community, as is Mr. Boyle. And so, yeah, we had a really good podcast, guys. We talked about everything from what you got to do to have your needs met to be a successful artist. Here's a little teaser. Getting a day job is not a death sentence. Having corporate gigs is not, it's not a blight on your career. You got to do what you got to do to make your projects a reality. Also, get sleep, get some sleep, get some good food in you. Stay away from that sugar. Exercise. Hell, walk around even. You don't even have to be swinging kettlebells or running 6 miles. But, you got to get your body moving, the blood pumping, so the blood can get into the brain, and just circle all around the body. So, yeah, we talk about stuff like that. Pat kind of breaks down sound system culture and where the roots of electronic music and DJing and producing come from. We talked about the ability of music to bring people together, the community aspect of everything. And we just talked about how cool it is to surround yourself with like-minded individuals and how lucky we are to be in Denver and in Colorado right now in general. So, to create your own culture, as they say. Build your own boat. Plant your own garden. Anyway, I'm rambling here. This is about 5 minutes long so far. So without further ado... Oh, wait. I gotta say, Pat, Digital Vagabond, is opening for Space Jesus at the beginning of the month, November. Let's see, when will this be released? So this will be released right before he's playing. Perfect timing. That weekend of November 1st through the 3rd, opening at the Ogden, the Bluebird, and somewhere else that we mentioned in the podcast. Can't remember right now. But also, we got a little announcement. We got to big up the homie, Chris Bolin, having his own solo show a DIY show at the Lost and Sound warehouse where we recorded this podcast. That's November 2nd. Find him at Bowl Guy, BOHLGUY on Instagram, and come out to his show. It's going to be a lot of fun. You got to RSVP to get in. No money, no charge or anything. He just is trying to get a head count to prepare the space so that you guys can come check it out. It's going to be a good one. And, we support at Artsy AF here, we support any sort of DIY kind of a thing. And we support our friends because that's what it's all about, You got to support the arts, even if you're not a patron or you're not someone who's buying tons of originals. Just support it, shout it out, tell your friends, whatever you can do. And so that's what we're trying to do here. So shouts Chris Bolin and Patty B. Big weekend for the Lost and Sound Warehouse, November 1st through the 3rd. On November 2nd, we got Bowl's show. So now I'm getting repetitive, and I am going to cut it off. And without further ado, Mr. Patrick Boyle, aka Digital Vagabond.
The beginning. Woo. Check. You sound quieter than I.
I think...
Nope, there you go.
It's because I was holding back just a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, I think... Yeah, just about a fist away, sort of.
A fist. A fist's length.
Yeah.
That's how I measure most things.
Yeah.
How many fists am I away from your face?
Just
how many
one.
Fists am I away
just
from your
one
wife?
Good one. Yes. So we're recording.
Perfect. Are we live?
Yeah, we're live. We're live here in Lost and Sound Studios down in Denver. You guys have a really unique living situation here, I would say.
It is. It's very special.
Yeah. For people who don't know, Patrick, you are... Did you co-found Lost and Sound?
Nope.
No,
they found me and gave me something to do.
Nice. Awesome.
Yep. I mean, we can get into that story later in the conversation if you want, but I mean, long story short, it was a Boston-based project between college students, and I met them all at a very peculiar time in their upcoming and personal awakening and the whole nine. And I started writing and doing interviews a couple years after meeting them to kind of give the fact that I was just traveling all over the place a purpose at all. But yeah, I mean, it started in Boston, and it's always just been a hobby, a labor of love that we've always considered important. Mm-hmm. Just kind of chronicalizing and librarying the music and the high fidelity art, or any of the artists that we think deserve some attention. Getting that recorded and on the internet for people to check out, and all over the world, people have.
Someone's really getting it out there.
It's Dillard. Driving by.
The drive-by DJ set.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on that for hours. Yeah, I mean, I kind of I took the torch in the last few years with Lost and Sound, mostly because I had the most skin in the game and the most to gain from doing it. Mm-hmm. Everybody's kind of found other entrepreneurial or production world or music world projects, or I mean, honestly, if I listed off like the 8 core members for the last 5 years, almost all of them are in like pretty incredible career positions at this point. One of them's producing commercials. The other one's higher up in Apple, traveling the world. One's in cannabis industry, pretty higher up, and another one's a very, very successful real estate agent in Boston. They're all doing awesome stuff, and they're all secret agents, working for the trippy guys.
Working for the corporate guys.
Yeah, well, they're working for the corporate guys, but they're really working for the trippy guys. They're on our side.
Yeah.
And they're out there, just listening to new cutting edge music while they're doing their 9 to 5s.
Right.
Which is, bless them, you know. I love all those guys. They all know who they are. I don't have to really go too deep into shouting out different people, but they all know who they are. And at this point, I'm just trying to make it so that all the work that all those people put in over the last 10 or so years that we've been doing the Lost and Sound thing, isn't for naught, and so that they can still tune in weekly or monthly whenever we're doing different broadcasts and be able to see the same thing they contributed their energy to over the years, kind of just evolving into a new platform. And it's the same energy. It's, you know what I mean? It's just new blood and new music and new high fidelity art, and it's centered in Denver, the mecca of all of that. So it just makes sense, and there's no bad blood between anybody. It's all love.
Nice.
I think lostandsound.org is slowly gonna see its like 10-year mark, I think, at the end of the year, and we're gonna be chilling on that and mostly focus on the live stream stuff and multimedia stuff from here on out. It's the main goal.
Nice.
But this place that you're inside of is kind of the beating heart of that, the brick and mortar. Yeah. And it's filled with a diverse little collection of weirdos that we've scraped together.
Yeah. It's kind of an ideal artist living situation. So everybody's doing their own thing. You've got Bowles Studio, art studio, painting studio there. A couple music studios.
Yeah, I mean, I can list the roster off real quick. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty. When I zoom out and think about it, it's pretty impressive. When I'm inside of it, there's a bunch of schmucks, but you know what I mean? That's how it should be. You know, that's that everybody that's here is like that, and they would say the same thing about me. You know what I mean? I love them all to death, and that's why I'm not gonna like give them too much of like an ego boost while we're in the zone and like making all of it, you know, like or else it's not going to be real and raw. But yeah, I mean, it's Chris Bolin, Robert Uslan is Supercilious, Kate Vitaliano has been huge, Ashes and Metal, Leather, she's been a huge contributor since the beginning. She's about to be moving and getting her own spot.
She's like a leathersmith.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Fashion.
Great work. We got Alex Weiss. He just moved in. He's Siva Music, sound design artist, IDM, dubstep. We got, I already said Chris. We got Ali Grimm. We just had Cran here. Chelsea Crandall. We got Zach Binary sharing some studio space. He's been super busy, but he's about to be here a lot more.
Awesome.
Mark Santos, photographer, videographer. Just, I mean, all people that like you may not notice on the top surface
on
level,
the gram or whatever.
They are. They're there. They're doing their thing, but they're doing it in their own lane. Yeah. Everybody here is in their own lane. And that's not, you can't say that about everybody in Denver, and that's not good or bad. It's just how it is. Some people, like a band, like you got to be in a band with a few people. You're not necessarily in your own lane, you know what I mean? Right. But everybody that's in this space is definitely in their own lane and pioneering something very interesting and peculiar, and they may not necessarily recognize it, but I definitely do. And it's very, I'm sure they do, but it's very special to see like 10 people or 9 people here. 5 of us live here, but there's a handful of studios, all just, you know, doing their own thing in their own little category. And, all of us just kind of leave each other alone unless we're eating together or smoking weed, you know?
Yeah.
We just, or if I hit like I haven't had writer's block since I moved into this place, but I don't think anybody else has either. Like, you know, you hit a wall, and I can just walk down the hallway, and there's several different, you know, ridiculous pieces of art being made in one medium or another to just
get
juice you up. Juice you right up.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, yeah. And
that alone, I mean, is super special and very rare, and we definitely don't take it for granted. You know, I mean, I try not to. I know everybody here is very grateful for it.
That's what's up. Yeah, I mean, I
we
feel
don't
like
even talk about it. That's how grateful we are about it. You know, we're just like, shh, don't even say.
Yeah, because if you talk about it too much,
right?
Yeah,
it becomes like you have this ideal that you're trying to push an agenda for or whatever, and like you start to shape things, and Oh, they're onto us, dude.
Yeah. Oh, dude, the Agenda Police found us.
The Agenda Police found us, dude. Podcast Agenda Police pushers.
All right, we're gonna have to pause.
Yeah, okay, at the door.
Well, Pat, I just wanted to gas you up a little bit, man. You're a DJ and a producer, wire wrap artist, jewelry, graphic designer, stage manager, and I saw you were just messing around with some 3D projection mapping recently. Or
I mean, I'm diving into the world of motion graphics and live projection stuff and VJing, and
yeah,
it's all, you get to a certain point with anything, 3-4 months in past the learning curve of being embarrassed by it, things start to click, and the more overlapping softwares or mediums that you can kind of layer, they start to co-teach and co-educate and each other, and I'll have breakthroughs in music when I'm thinking about visual stuff and back and forth now.
Yeah.
Because I've always loved both so much.
Right. I wanted to ask you though, how did you get into a position of, getting to this point where you have your hands kind of like in all these different programs and medias? How did that manifest for you? Did you just keep
I've never really had many.
My
parents never really said no to me much. Sorry,
nice.
Mom. It's the truth. They tried for sure when they needed to. They definitely kept me safe and everything. But
right, sure.
They had other things going on, and the house was kind of crazy. And I had 3 older sisters that took a lot of their attention and a lot of the flack for me. Bless them. So I got to kind of just like be left to my own devices most of my life, and then I was taught some tricks at a younger age, probably maybe too young of an age, that made it so I didn't have to work too much from when I was like 17 to 24 or 25.
Nice.
And during that time I traveled a lot and spent a lot of time with people that I looked up to and tried to surround myself by that. And I didn't get to go to college. I didn't have that as an opportunity really, and I guess I could have if that felt right, but it didn't really at the time. And the main thing is like, I feel like I've been blessed with the opportunity to have equipment available to me my whole life in different ways, whether it's my parents having it or friends and family having equipment and gear, but I've just been surrounded by different gear my whole life. So I just find I naturally am like a tinkerer and a gearhead type person. And if I see someone do something, I naturally am just like, well, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I've done that for long enough and proven that to myself time and time again, and that sounds fucking, arrogant or whatever, but I'm confident in that like if I see something that inspires me, I can figure it out. And whether that means I'm going to be the best at it or not, I don't really care. Right. I'm not trying to be the best at it. I'm just trying to know that I can figure it out. Well, because if I can figure it out, I can speak that language of that person, and understand their art and their expression better, and also be able to express myself better without talking.
Well, it seems like you've got the talking part down too, man. Yeah, sometimes I think you have to have that confidence and that kind of like, maybe not delusion at the beginning, but like this sort of like,
it's delusion.
Oh no, this is good.
It is delusion.
Yeah,
it's Dunning-Kruger effect. That's literally what it's called, right?
Dunning-Kruger effect?
I'm pretty sure it's like the delusion that you're actually better at something than you are.
Yeah.
When you first start, it's like a false confidence.
It's almost like you need it too. It's like padding and a buffer between you and like, the
reality of the situation, which is that
exactly.
you're a fucking dumbass. And like, you're always going to be that. Like, we're always
and you should strive to be that, I think.
Yeah.
Like a beginner, like the whole time through, just like,
man, if you could just be a journeyman for the rest of your life about everything, I think that's going to be the right path for me, at least. Like, like I don't ever want to get to a point in my life where I'm not trying to figure out something new.
Yeah.
Like, that seems like, and what's the point? Like,
Yeah.
And it's not a competition. It's just really just trying to. I'm thirsty for all these different experiences, So like, and when I get inspired by something, I'm like, what is that? That's so inspiring. I got to get to like the root of it. How did it make it?
Right.
Because I mean, you're an artist. Like, the final product is like that's just the map. Like, it's getting back to the how, like that
process.
That process.
Yeah.
That's like that's the gold. And like, it's. Once you can tap into all these different processes, you're just mining gold.
Right.
Like, I don't have shit. I don't have any money, just like anybody else. But I am, like, in this place, I'm a dragon in my castle.
Do you think
surrounded by gold.
That's how you got to be so proficient enough to share your work and to kind of gather just all this ammo? Is that how you got good at that, was by flexing that muscle in your brain, that process muscle?
Yeah, definitely. And also just like breaking the learning curve down into easily attainable goals that have rewards, like someone paying you to do the job.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't know, for instance, like if I'm trying to get better at making logos, I'll put it out there to all my artist friends. Hey guys, like I'm not that great at this, but I'm looking to do this more. Like I'm pretty good at it. I'm better than the next guy, or like some other people, you know?
Right.
So, you know, throw me $50 and I'll take a schwack at it, you know? That's a little bit of a reward, and you're not putting too much pressure on yourself. And then you can watch 10 videos that week on how to make Illustrator logos.
Right. And
then boom, you can whip out 20 of these things in an hour for somebody, and they can pick between which ones they want. And, you know, it seems like it sounds easier than it is, but all it really is just deciding you're going to do it and not bullshitting yourself, and maybe writing it down that day that this is what I'm going to do, you know?
Yeah.
That way you can hold yourself accountable, you know? But
do you want to speak more to maybe breaking things down, like in steps? Because I know personally I have some trouble with that. Like I see the end goal, and I mean I've done it. You know, I'm starting to practice breaking things down into steps, and it's definitely way easier. So I think that could be maybe it's just some good advice, or just something cool to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know what this would actually be called, but I kind of call it systems thinking. Mm-hmm. But maybe that's the wrong term. Maybe it's the right term. Who knows? But for me, it works. Essentially what it is you could tackle a project and do part A, part B, part C, part D, so on and so forth, till you're done. Mm-hmm. Right? Or you could tackle a project and do A through Z 1%, A through Z 2%, A through Z 3%. And that to me is systems thinking, where you're breaking it down into what are the similar processes that this whole system does, and you simplify it down. And maybe that sounds like really abstract, but for instance, if I'm making music,
right,
I will do all my sound designing one day, and then on certain days of the week, and what sound designing is just basically putting ink on the palette and mixing colors, you know, and getting the colors you want. Sure, mm-hmm. You know, and then the next day, I'll spend a few hours building a template in Ableton, so that every time I open Ableton, the same instruments are ready to go. And then the third day, I'll combine all three of those. Mm-hmm. Instead of just trying to start a track from the beginning and just make it happen, I'll just do it like that. I do the same thing with my jewelry. If I'm making 20 rings that week, I'll cut all the metal, I'll cut all that, like, you know, the wrappable wire, and then I'll line everything up and set out all the stones, and I'll make all the ring bands, and then I'll set all the stones on all 20 rings, and then I'll do all the detail on all 20 rings. And I break it down into processes like that, so it doesn't seem so daunting.
Right.
And there's this inertia that you get once you're at like 75%. That's just like adrenaline rush, like so exciting, because you're not about to be done with one of them. You're about to be done with all of them.
Yeah.
And you got so good by like the third or fourth one in of whatever that process was, that the second, you know, 15 rings are perfect, or the, you know, say it can be used in, you know, a million different applications. And, you know, you don't want to use it on people too much, because people don't really operate that well.
We're not really systems, we're more processes.
We're not, right? But some artists are, and some people do really relate to that. You know, I have certain friends that really relate to what I'm talking about as a lifestyle thing. But, you know, people are more organic, and
sure,
you have to have a lot more patience and understanding. And, you know, I've struggled with all of those things because of the way that I work, and switching that work mind off and not treating people like robots and machines is really, really important thing that we all need to remember, you know?
Yeah.
Because if we're just crunching numbers all day for work or, you know, doing production work of any kind, we're kind of assimilating into like this mechanical robot way of like operating. And like as effective as it is in order to live in a capitalist society, like our relationships like with each other need to stay like organic, and
totally
we got to be able to take that mask off and
open up,
yeah,
be a little vulnerable sometimes, you know.
Yeah, and it's a, you know, there's things we can do to help with that, and mushrooms are the one.
Mushrooms. I was wondering when we were going to get into psychedelics. We've literally talked about...
I'm talking about shiitakes.
Shiitake mushrooms on every podcast so far. So
that's tight.
There it is. We got almost 20 minutes in.
That's tight. Is that a timer? Like when are mushrooms going to come up?
Yeah. And whenever mushrooms come up, I get a little notification.
Oh, yeah.
No.
You asked me what my agenda is. It's the mushrooms agenda. It's not my agenda.
Hey. Yeah, I mean, kind of, right? I don't know what's going on here in Denver, but it sort of seems like some sort of force has brought together a mass of creative people, and we all seem to know each other in one way or another. 6 degrees of separation kind of thing, at least.
2 degrees.
Yeah, 2 degrees. That, thank you. Yeah.
It's like, you know, okay, yeah, all right, yeah, come on over for dinner. You know what I mean? It's like
totally.
It's so, and if there's people I don't know at this point, I'm like, who is this? It's like fishy almost. I'm like, who are you? And then I get to know, I'm like, you're really cool.
Right.
You know.
They're just new.
Yeah, they're just new.
You got to be like,
or like they've been in town for long enough where it's like, I feel like I don't know you, but I feel like we would have met by now if we should have. So who are you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I meet them, I'm like, yeah, really cool.
Yeah.
Almost everybody you meet in Denver is like a sweetie pie, and just like a refugee from some other place where there's no resources for artists, and like,
right.
There's like, thank God.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like a breath of fresh air.
Some people take advantage of it, but whatever, fuck them. They know who they are.
Yeah. So yeah, do you feel like I do? I mean, I think we agreed on this earlier, but we're having some sort of a renaissance, be it psychedelic or just creatively. And do you think it's not only concentrated in Colorado, Denver right now, but I don't know, it seems to be just like bubbling out here. Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of factors involved. I think it behooves us to call it a renaissance, but I think there's a lot of variables that are coming into play. I mean, there were a lot of variables that created the iconic renaissance as well. You know, so I mean, without going too far into like, you know, crazy historical references, it definitely does feel like Denver is a bit of like a modern day Florence, and I think the main thing is, you know, no one wants to admit it, but it's money.
Yeah.
And because of the green boom that happened in Colorado in the last 5 to 10 years, there are younger people with money who appreciate the arts and or don't have, you know, giant debts looming over their head, that are able to be patrons of the arts. And that's pretty rare in most parts of the country and, you know, a lot of parts of the world at this point, where there's, you know, young 20-somethings that have enough money to be able to buy a $5,000 or $10,000 or $100,000 piece of art, which is not unheard of. Like, we've all seen that happen at this point, whether it's, you know, these underground glass events or these art parties, like, you know, there's untaxable money, you know, and things happen, you know what I mean? And, you know, everybody's going to hang me for saying that one, but it's pretty obvious. Like, you know, it's been on Vice News, guys. Yeah. It's how it's always operated. Like,
right.
Like, you know, if you think that these ritzy, like, $1 million art pieces are being sold, like, to, you know, very wealthy people, you know, without other agendas, you're silly.
Yeah, you're kind of deluding yourself. Yeah. It's I think a historical corollary to that would be like, well, the church wasn't taxed.
Exactly.
And has never been.
Exactly.
Most likely.
Right.
But yeah, I just wanted to get you to speak to that for a little bit, because it's kind of the whole impetus of the podcast.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
I'm real excited about just having this podcast, as I'm sure John would echo if he were here. It just feels like kind of this kind of underground radio where we can say whatever the fuck we want and talk about whatever we want, and we have an audience.
Yeah, it's super important, man.
So yeah, anyway, got off on a tangent there.
No, that's the good tangent. You should always take pride in whatever you're doing. If I believe in that. I was saying that earlier. Like, if you don't take pride in what you're doing, like, what is the point of doing it?
Yeah.
Or if it's not a point of pride for you, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things that can bring us that in life, and
sure,
I think it's important to have a healthy balance of all of it. But yeah, Denver's a very special place. A lot of people have moved here over the last 5 to 10 years for good reason. And I think if you've grown up in a place where resources are tight and you felt alienated by simply being an artist and like wanting to express yourself in different ways, then going to a place where most people have their needs met and there's work to go around, and there's patrons of the art, and there's hundreds of other people that know like the little tropes and motifs that you're using. Like I've been walking down the street or at the grocery store and had people like comment on like certain styles in my art that I've used like in Colorado, and that's crazy. And like that's not like a special thing or a famous thing or anything like that. Like it's mostly just like, that's really fucking cool that there's other human beings that this is like communicating directly to, and that I can run into them on the street where I live. Right. And because I'm not doing this to make fans at all. I don't make art to make fans. I make it to make friends. And some people I'm closer with, some people I'm not. But at the end of the day, if we're all tweeting the same song, like chances are we're probably going to get along. You know? And I'm not trying to have everybody that's into my art over to dinner, but like I'll come over to your place probably.
No, it's definitely a cool environment, man. I was out at the store recently with one of my hoodies on, and somebody goes, "Oh man, that hoodie's so sick," and I was just like, "Brother," nice. Like, because we know that sick means cool or awesome, and he's like, "Yeah, man, it's really trippy."
We know that.
And
we pay attention to
we've heard of the word
Urban
sick.
Dictionary. I'm on there pretty much every day.
Yeah,
keeping up with the trends.
Yeah, do you see that they have that thing on Urban Dictionary now, words that are trending?
Dang.
Or maybe that's just dictionary, but
that's
cool. Either way,
we're trending cool. Where, on Twitter and Facebook and stuff?
Maybe. Or maybe because just I feel like internally on their own site.
Yeah, that's weird. That's weird. I feel like the words that people type aren't necessarily like the same
the words that
are
they
trending
say.
Like when the people say.
Yeah.
But then again, all of our devices are listening to us and like sorting every single word we say into folders. So
what do you think about the algorithm and all this like
the algorithm?
The
management?
Algorithm.
You mean? You're talking about management?
So what is management though? So do you think it's an amalgamation of all the words we typed plus like maybe some stuff they picked up on the mic and like just current imagistic trends just like being sorted in this cloud and sort of just like,
I mean, it's great. If I'm like, call me a capitalist pig, but if I'm like trying to get some new gear in my life or trying to learn about something new, all I do is talk about it near my phone, and Instagram just starts sending me ads for all this stuff that I didn't even know I wanted.
Right.
And like, of course, I'm not a sucker. I'm going to check it out and then be like, haha, I got you. I'm not going to buy anything. Yeah. Get their conversion rate down. Yeah. But, like it's interesting. Like I've just embraced it because it's going to become more and more like that as far as advertising goes. If we have to take part in this game, if we're going to play this game of capitalism until it dissolves into something else, like you might as well not fight it and like, and see it for what it is and like, and just dance with it and then let it go and not let it consume you. You know what I mean? Like it's too easy to just be like buying stuff off your Instagram ads all day, but then you'll realize you go anywhere with Instagram pants and everybody else has Instagram pants on too. And we all see it, and we notice. So Instagram pants is a thing. We all know what what I'm talking about.
We know about your Instagram pants. well, even if somebody did buy, in this metaphor, Instagram pants, and they realize that it doesn't fill the void of something like a process-driven, creative-minded project.
It does a little bit.
You think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because we're so programmed from birth to like once you have the new thing, like you
do
feel
get
good
a
about yourself, and
dopamine
you're like,
thing,
hell
yeah.
If that's what you need to fucking get out the door and do it, sweet.
Yeah.
I definitely, like, I don't know, I was raised like by my big sisters, like, stealing their their real mom's credit card, you know what I mean? And like taking me shopping, So like, there's a certain part of me that's like, I understand what that is, that trigger in people to like want to go out and buy stuff. And I'm not that guy that's like, you should be spending your money on this.
Well,
I am a little bit, but like I try not to be too much because
you don't want to be preachy to other people.
Well, I don't mind about certain things. Like, if someone wants to preach to me about something that they're passionate about, fucking preach on, brother. Like, I'll join your gospel for sure.
Yeah.
Like, but if you're annoying and you obviously don't know what you're talking about and you've never been there and you're preaching to hide your true in your true nature, then,
right.
that's going to catch up with you eventually.
Right.
You don't need me to tell anybody that.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that even if a person does buy Instagram pants,
yeah,
they'll get something out of it either way.
Yeah, and
I'm
about that.
Either they will learn that doesn't fill a hole,
right?
Or that they're like, oh, I kind of fucking
like it. And all
like
the
Instagram
algorithm
pants.
is trying to do is figure out where your holes are.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Because it's not even like, it's insidious, but it's not even a conspiracy. It's literally how do we keep people on this? Because our model is to keep people on it so that we can get advertisement revenue from people using it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And the analytics of them using it.
Absolutely.
Every website that you go to while Facebook's open on your phone or on anything, it tracks everything you do on those sites. If you go to or from any website from Facebook or Instagram, it's tracking all of that.
Yeah.
That should be basic knowledge for everybody at this point. Like, I'm pretty sure it is.
I think it should be.
Yeah, and so you just accept that. And then okay, so now what are the rules? Now that those are the guidelines.
Yeah.
All right. Don't use your phone all the time. Don't bring it everywhere with you that you don't want it to like listen to your conversations. Like, you know what I mean? So like the rules just change a little bit, and you just have to be a little more clever about how you do things that you don't want the whole world to potentially know about. It's not governments.
True.
It's not conspiracy. There's no Illuminati. It's just everybody at this point.
Yeah.
Like, because all it takes is one hacker or somebody that wants to exploit you or something. And I'm not saying to be paranoid about that, but like, it's 2019. Like, you piss off the wrong person, like they can just pay someone to dox you.
Yeah.
And that's not crazy. That's like video games. Like, it happens every day.
Yeah.
So like, we just have to be mindful of how we use the technologies and those. I think that Facebook, the way Facebook operates and how Instagram operates, that it's all very white pages to me. Like, it's all very basal and like you're still scrolling through all of it. Like, eventually it'll feel like you're going to a virtual mall. I feel like, and guess what? There's mall goths and there's people that hang out at the mall. But then there's a whole slew of people that don't have anything to do with the mall,
right?
And that still exists, and I think that's how the future is going to be going too. There's going to be a bunch of people that just like use social media for what it is, and then don't partake and choose how brainwashed they want to be by it. I guess.
Well, I heard you say that we should really kind of play the dance or dance with capitalism while it's here. When do you think?
That's not what I said. I said we should whatever's coming at us, we should just dance with it, no matter what it is. In general, try and figure out like any of your
like whatever you're living in.
Just try and figure out a way to dance with it instead of being afraid of it.
Right. Or getting tense around it. Or
like there's a way to just boogie on through, do a spin move. Like, and it'll just blow by you. And or through you, and that sucks. But like. That's inevitable, but I mean that's pretty abstract. But you get my point.
Yeah. You guys understand metaphors, right?
Yeah, we're talking to artists. I think.
Yeah.
I think I might get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, remind me of the initial question there.
I was just thinking of. I was kind of trying to form it on the fly. So what do you think capitalism will dissolve into?
Oof. I mean,
I guess.
You want my ideal?
Yeah, I want your ideal.
Scenario.
Don't give me any reality here.
Ideal scenario is all of this data buildup, like all of these massive corporations that are building up all this data. I have a couple different theories.
Okay.
They get zanier and zanier.
Give me your zaniest.
Okay, zaniest?
Yeah.
We're not discovering, or we're not inventing technology. We're discovering it.
Ooh.
And we're slowly discovering the ability to take part in what's going on in the rest of the universe. And also to be able to communicate with the planet.
Yeah.
That's one zany theory.
I love that.
You know?
I'm on board with the communicate with the planet.
Yeah, and then maybe that's not just like, it's not like, hey little guy, like,
Yeah,
me, the planet. Remember me?
Hey, buddy, remember to put your right shoe on this morning first.
That's not what I mean. I mean, like get constant technological biofeedback so that we can, like, adjust our behavior to, like, better suit our harmony with it.
So we can kind of garden our own planet.
Or we're just like one of those organisms that grows on a planet when it's, like, doing its thing. Like, you know, there's that.
There could be that.
And it's just, we're just like random as fuck, and we take it way too seriously. And, like, this is our one chance at, like, ever existing. And we're like, we're gonna go to the stars, you know, and probably not. So there's a couple. I have a couple different weird zany theories like that. But you know, where's capitalism going? I think it'll probably dissolve into some, like, crypto democracy, cryptocurrency type scenario where countries cease to exist, and it's basically what corporations own, like, areas. And, like, as much as, like, the word corporation's a dirty word, like,
ew.
Now when you really think about it and you look at it like a cellular thing, it's just cells organizing, and
it's just an emergent phenomenon.
Exactly. It's organisms organizing in a new way that is no longer like these government. It's very similar to government. I mean, a corporation is very similar, but it's, you know, they have a lot more power now than they ever have. And I get to say this from a privilege of being a white American male, but I love when power meets chaos. You know what I mean? Like, it's not always pretty for everybody. We've all experienced marginalization. I can't even say that I have, because it's not historically factual, but, like, a lot of people have experienced marginalization
maybe as
because
an artist.
Fuck that. No matter what I say, like, I've never been historically marginalized. Being a white American male, there's no such thing as reverse racism, guys, and there's no such thing as reverse sexism. Doesn't exist. Not a thing. Anyways, we can get into that later. But yeah, I mean, shit, man. Like, I hope that all this technology and all this information that's being amassed is to lead to a total transparency phase where, like, all of the information that has been amassed is all of a sudden available to everyone by accident, maybe, or by hack, or by chaos, whatever. You know, some 13-year-old kid could just decide, let's hack, that seems to Apple, and, like, release everything on everybody. Let's see what Google's incognito window says about everyone, like, on the planet. You know? Let's see, let's release everyone's tax information. Like, we're gonna get to a point where no matter how much that's why the older generation is so terrified of security. That's, like, why there's such a focus on it now. It's because, like, if the playing field was leveled and everybody realized that we're all creeps and we're all, like, have the same weird things, and, like, we all eat and poop and pee, like, if everybody realized how similar we truly were, these divide and conquer mechanisms wouldn't work anymore. And I think that's where technology is heading. I hope that that's where it's heading. A lot of people would say, yeah, right, there's more people that are blind to it ever. I would disagree. I think that's the narrative that we're being taught, that everybody's a sheeple and nobody gets it.
No, people get it, man.
Dude, I've spent a lot of time traveling. Maybe we attract the people that we're similar to, but I talk to people that watch Fox News all day. We all have the same exact desires and needs. Right. And they just happen to have been sucked into this weird little mechanism of Fox News. It's a mind control mechanism. And when you really sit down with people, they're not at your throat. Like no. There may be family members that, some of you have that watch Fox News or whatever, or even hardcore Democrats can be really annoying too. I try not to take any side. I think we're all just trying to figure it all out. And, I think capitalism is a form of governing organisms. Okay. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And right, like, now it's kind of where we're at.
It's where we're at. And I don't hate it or love it. It's just like a scaffolding. That's why I was saying dance with it. Figure out a way to dance with it. I think it's the scaffolding to get us to the next scaffolding, to get us, we're just organisms organizing on a planet, and
on greater and greater complex levels every time.
Super complex, more defined and more complex, and it's easy to dissociate from all the really shitty things that happen to people every day, by saying, oh, we're just organisms organizing. But like, that's kind of like the only way to find Zen in it.
In life.
In it is like, oh, okay, well, we're just organisms organizing, like family member dies, like circle of life, if there's war in different places in the world, like, we're organizing in really weird ways, and it's really gross and fucked up sometimes, and it's definitely being hijacked by certain people and different groups and parties, and there's mechanisms that have been put in place to marginalize different types of people, for sure. I'm not denying that in any ways, but at the end of the day, when you zoom out, like if I was an extraterrestrial race watching the planet, I wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, well, this guy's doing that and this guy's doing this. I'd be like, oh, look at how these organisms are organizing. You know what I mean? Like, who knows? Right. But, I try to have both minds about the future. Is just like, that utopian output or mindset, or also like the maybe we only get so much time on the planet as human beings, and there's something that'll come after us, and figure it out.
I think it's good to keep in mind that possibility exists, like the possibility that we only get this one chance. But you should act as if maybe it's already a done deal, and like staying
100%.
calm, staying calm. And
at first, there's a shock to the
friends.
system that when you get try and wrap your head around that, you're like, well, what the fuck? There's that existential dread. But then once you truly accept, it's like there's no way out for any of us.
That's right. Because I think McKenna said this, and
great guy.
I love that guy. Anyway, he said that people get all upset about the race perishing when the individual definitely does. So that's, it's a kind of like a weird balance way of looking at it. I think it's just like, understand that you probably only get this one shot. Nothing's guaranteed, but also that like, it's all good and it goes on forever.
There's a beauty in that. There's a beauty in the fact that like, it's finite, and accepting the finite nature of it, because then you're kind of like liberated from the thousands of years of like, oh no, there's a round two as long as you're good. As long as you follow our rules, there's a round two. Totally. You just keep working.
Just keep
keep having kids that'll go into the military, pay taxes and go to school and stuff.
Exactly.
All of those are thought mind worms.
They're viruses.
They're viruses, exactly.
Totally.
And like, but they're also scaffolding. Like, there's with every good intention, there's this poison that can be mixed in by people who want to take advantage of it, and at the root of every religion, there's the desire for unification and spirit and like these
transcendence.
Things. But then there's people that are like, oh yeah, like people do fall for that one. Like let's layer on some different couple
bullshit.
strips here, change a couple sentences here, and all of a sudden everybody's like homophobic and like you know what I mean, and like having more kids than they need to, and you know what I mean, and like anybody who knows anything about coding, like, all you got to do is change a couple little words and letters and numbers here and there, and the expression of that code at the end can be absolute like terror, you know what I mean, or chaos to like have to fix, and I think that's where we're at with a lot of things, is like we
have a bug in the system.
Well, there were just social architects who figured out over the last couple thousand years that you can change a few little pieces of the code to make it benefit you more. And fuck those guys. But we've all got computers now, so we can all kind of compare and contrast all this information, and some people were brought up in these mechanisms, and it's taken till I was 30 to not be like bitter towards them.
Oh yeah, you can't. I mean, I for one, went to church till I was 16.
Yeah, I was like 12, Roman Catholic Church, and my mom's a Universalist now, which is
way chiller,
way more chill. I mean, they're just that's the perfect solution to
Religion.
being raised inside of a religion and having that be your sense of community. They didn't have festivals. They didn't have venues they could all like where they went to and everybody knew each other and it was just peace and like it was good to go. They have some cities and things like that, but you grew up in a small town, like it's church.
Yeah, it is
that's
church.
your sense of community, and that's the church kind of hijacked that. They were like, oh, you like community? Sweet, here you go. Like here's a building that you can all meet in once a week. It's like, so it's important to that generation. I feel like it's really important to my mom, and I totally support that.
Sure.
That congregation but as long as you're just like, you know what, I'm down with all of it. You know what I mean? Like I'm pretty much, I've gotten to that point where I'm like, you know what, there's like something good in all of it. And everybody sucks at something and everybody's finger stinks if you smell close enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
So like everyone, including me.
We're all complicit even in all this stuff.
Totally. And, part of me is like, I don't want to really like celebrate Christmas because I don't want to support like all the terrible shit. But it's like, also like if you think about the amount of like really happy people on that day,
right?
It's like, all right, I don't really want to shit on their happiness.
Exactly.
But there's also like the really poor people that have like a terrible day because like they can't perform the capitalist ritual that it's become. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it's such a nuanced thing, and you can't really. The moment
it's the hijacking.
Yeah, the moment that you land on one side of it.
Christmas, like, how about it's like presents under the tree?
Yeah.
Did they type that in? Like, no. How about Santa Claus brings it to you? Who we got this Santa guy?
Well, he's a nice old man. He eats lots of cookies and drinks milk, fat and sugar.
It's all very like Oracle, like Man in the High Castle-y. Like I feel like it's just like these myths get rewritten by, and now it's the marketing guys, like and romance.
I wonder what kind of epoch we're about to be in. If
nonsense, it's happening. The nonsense myths, like the Tim and Eric level.
Have you been watching
mythology.
South Park?
I haven't. I don't have like basic cable. We don't have basic cable. We have a no commercial rule in this building. So like we don't have anything that like will give us commercials.
That's what's up.
Yeah, it's an unspoken rule.
Yeah, we got that Hulu or whatever.
Yeah, no, I got all those. Is it on?
It's on Hulu.
The new season is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to have to check that out.
Well,
I love
what I was going to say is that it's gotten so, their show has only gotten so ridiculous because they have such ridiculous shit to write about.
Right.
I mean, it's always been ridiculous, but I mean, I feel like it's ramped up. Anyway, that's just me kind of being like, you're a fanboy of South Park, right? Yeah.
No, okay, not even like we brought up the nonsense and like they're major myth makers. Like no one really wants to like. It's just, their whole secret is that it's kids swearing and it's a cartoon. Or was like dumb people can be like, oh, kids swearing, but like if you really watch that shit and you have a brain in your head and you're thinking about it, you're like, damn, they are having some like
it's deep.
Satirical. If you do the math here, like if you do the algebra, like what they're really saying is like pretty powerful, and like they're talking about some interesting myths and they mess with some really interesting topics. And I mean, the whole season that's about the gentrification of Denver.
The Soto Pop.
I mean, we live in that. That's where we live. You know what I mean? So it's like that. It's important because what it does is it mixes really important information in a format that like anybody can metabolize, and whether they realize they're metabolizing it or not, they are.
Right.
It's and some of it's just like trash, and you're like, come on, guys, like what the fuck? But that's how they keep the dummies like hooked.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't want to say dummies as like a degrading thing. I'm a dummy, but like we all anybody who watches cartoons on TV is kind of a dummy. We're all dummies. But like it's one of those things that they mix these really cool concepts in with.
It's like a Trojan horse.
It is an absolute perfect example. I always say like medicine and sugar. It's like the medicine being like that chaos.
Yeah,
like
that chaos seed.
Yeah,
to
totally.
get you thinking.
And the nonsense that's
like
just
that
like,
night,
wait, what?
That night you can't fall asleep and you're just thinking about like, well, what do they really mean?
Right. Yeah, what were they really saying? Like, wait a second. Like your brain does the algebra finally, and you're like, whoa, wait a second.
Yeah.
Like, that's heavy.
You see all these psychic structures crumble before your eyes when you realize all this shit.
Yeah, and they also like they're aware of like how everybody humans are in America now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's also they've created this like echo chamber of their own comedy, too. So
yeah,
I mean, they do a very good job at having commentary on like the things that just like averagely cool and interesting and funny people would do as like accidents, as like a trope, you know what I mean?
Right.
Just making fun of the hash pens and like all like no one's safe, and
right.
they make it playful.
The scooters.
You know, you watch. I don't know if you've watched like old castle movies or like any like you always see like they got the puppets and like that's like that's what that like they're able to speak the truth in the king's court by playing
by
the jester
using
role.
puppets
and like by being the little kids that are cut out of paper swearing, you know,
totally,
and like no one
it's they're like they're kind of like, do you know who Doug Stanhope is?
Of course,
yeah, they're kind of like Stanhope in that way where they can do whatever the fuck they want.
I mean, yeah,
and they have their audience, and I think even one of their last seasons was like hashtag ban South Park at the end of each episode.
They're trying to get themselves banned.
Exactly. But it speaks, you know,
it's very
to
meta.
Cancel culture and all this other shit.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just freaking love it. So shouts out South Park.
I mean, yeah, and anybody that's playing with satire and like comedy about hard topics, whether they have an agenda or not, it's getting people talking, and and as long as it's in like a playful, like, did you see that South Park episode? Oh my god, like, it's crazy how there's like, you know, it's interesting. You know, they have a platform where they could have started sucking and sold out super hard a long time. Who knows? They could have just doubled down and like they're working with Donald Trump jokes. And he's writing all of it and like this is like
we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know, dude. They could be dead. They could be in freezers somewhere and like Joe Rogan's fake. They're fake. Donald Trump doesn't exist.
I haven't heard an interview from them in a long time.
No one has, dude. Notice how you never see Joe Rogan and those guys in the same room? Nope. Exactly, dude. Same people. Say they don't have enough. The simulator doesn't have enough RAM to run both at the same time.
Well, you were talking about coding and how like architects kind of embed little themes or motifs to get whatever outcome. So I'm trying to piece this together kind of in my head here, but is there a certain line of code or theme or element or motif like running through your work, you would say? Anything that you can point to?
Yeah, I have a few.
Can I guess one?
Sure.
Depth.
Oh, definitely not.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, see you guys later.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so. That's something that I would hope for. I mean, for people to see the depth of my art, but like, I don't expect it. Some of the stuff I do is pretty shallow, in my opinion. But
maybe even just like deep. How would I say this? Like a deep voice. No, a deep
spacious
scene. Yeah, spacious. Like an area that like you go further and further
negative
down.
Space is very important.
That's what I'm saying.
In all ways. And what negative space is for me, you know all this, you're an artist, but what negative space is me is choosing not to do something right there, you know? Whether that's like a rest in music or a silent spot or, you know, negative space in a design somewhere to really emphasize what is there and what isn't there, you know? And I think I find a lot of calmness personally in the space between things. I don't know if that sounds really cheesy, but probably whatever. I don't really care. Like there's a Zen to, I don't know, there's definitely like a meditation technique where you can sit quietly somewhere and you close your eyes and you listen to all the different sounds that you hear in the space.
Right.
And you think about, you know, the creaking chair or the door being opened or, you know, the car's door being closed across the street, and and then you focus on all the negative space between all of that. And that space between all that void for me is like super calming. And that's a relaxation technique that I was taught when I was younger to deal with some pretty intense anxiety, you know, and to just like calm your brain down, you know, and just focus on all the void between things, you know. And for me, when I hear music that emphasizes that, it's like that's that deep medi for me feel that like, you know, that's why they named that label that. Is I'm almost positive that, you know, it's
like deep meditation.
Yeah, deep meditation, but it's also it's very minimal music that if you let your mind relax to it, there's only 5 or 6 or 7 things happening at once.
Right.
At the most, and each one is in its own little sonic position where they're not overlapping, and it's very well. Each sound is very well manicured, and the rhythms are very hypnotic. And that's something that
it brings you into a space.
Yeah, it does, and it really does. It envelops you, and it brings you into a different space. It's captivating, and it's important. That's definitely a motif that I try and have all the way across all my art, is that negative space.
How does that run through all the various mediums you work in?
Yeah. Let's see. So the first one was that, I like to use space and negative space in all my work. I mean, I like to make very minimal sound system music. I like to leave a lot of negative space in my jewelry designs for kind of the wearer or the person wearing it to be part of it as well, part of the little presentation or whatever, And I just think it speaks in any form of design. It just speaks to a knowledge of what doesn't need to be there as well, which is just as powerful as putting something in a place,
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I think that echoes through all the different mediums that I work with. The other one I try and put in everything is the rule of thirds, or any number divisible by 3. Mainly, the number speaks to me for a lot of different reasons, but also in nature, things are very much more commonly found in odd numbers.
Yeah.
And it's the first, other than 1, the first odd number, and it creates that trinity, harmony, and I like to just put that in everything, especially since a lot of my mediums are very mechanical or computer or like machine-like. That kind of leads to the third motif, which is like a harmony between technology and nature. Which is...
That's a deep one.
Yeah. I mean...
I like that.
I think that, like I said earlier, we're not necessarily inventing these technologies. We're discovering them. And I think what we're really discovering is these deeper ways to commune with nature and interact with nature. And right now it just looks really crude and immature and detrimental to our environment in a lot of ways. Yeah. But I think we're figuring out ways. If you zoom out a little bit, we have time. There's a lot of people who are making a lot of money off of convincing us that we don't have time. But I think that, and I think that there is obviously like a very bad issue with the current climate situation, on the planet.
Sure.
I think it's fucked.
Yeah.
But I think that as we evolve, our technologies are showing themselves to us in a way where we can make less damage by existing, or cause less damage by existing. And I see that as a trend, and I try and echo that into my art, and that's just like one little hope that I have. That's kind of like my prayer, almost, while I'm making the art, is like, let's figure out a way to emulate nature as much as possible in everything that we do, in order to like be able to interact better with it, because that's what we are at the end of the day.
We just come from nature.
Yeah,
part of it.
We are that, and we do have this weird ability to diverge from that. Yeah, that's the word, right? Diverge.
Yeah, basically set up buffers between ourselves and
totally
and other.
We
parts
have that
of nature.
ability, and a lot of people choose to do that. We all choose to do that in certain ways, just by wearing shoes and putting glasses on, and using the dollar and all those things. But if we can counteract all those things we have to do right now as like a scaffolding and a stepping stone in the direction of where we're heading, with as many natural solutions as possible, or biomimicry is like the main things.
Explain that for people who don't know.
Biomimicry is any technology that mimics nature's like architecture or like utilitarian purpose.
Do you know Santiago Calatrava?
The name is super familiar, and I probably do if you were to show me any work by him.
Yeah, he does like all those neat bridges, and he's an architect. I think he mimics something in nature. I can't remember. That name popped up in my head.
Anybody that's doing that, big up. Like anybody who's using their platform, and they could just build a big cement building, and they're not, and they're getting the billions of dollars from these companies to build something that is making less of a impact and more of a social statement about our climate and our connection to it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I try not to be too anti things these days. Like, I definitely, that sounds super cliche, but like, you know, there's a way where we can move forward and not have absolute conflict all the time. You know what I mean? With our environments and with people and in conversations. And it's really just like having your own needs taken care of to the best of your ability, I feel like, so that you don't feel desperate in every interaction that you have with other people and other systems.
Right.
Yeah, you want to rebel against your government, figure out how to grow all your own food, figure out how to have your own power, figure out how to have your own value that you bring to the world that only you can do.
Produce.
You know? Yeah. And that's a huge step in the right direction. Because then no one can turn the nozzle off on you. Because if you're on the nozzle for everything and it gets turned off, whether it's we go to war with somebody and things get tight financially, or the gas gets expensive and like your job requires you to have gas, like, you know, I don't know. I'm a big proponent of trying to figure out my 10-year goal is to be as sustainable of a human being as possible with having as little of a footprint as possible. It takes resources to get to that point. It takes investment. It takes years of brainwashing or de-brainwashing yourself, you know what I mean, and re-brainwashing yourself with positive thought processes and thinking cyclically and like not wanting to waste everything that you do. And you know, it takes time and no one should beat themselves up over it, but as long as you're moving in that direction, nature, I feel like, will
supporting you.
Yeah, will support you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's like weird and abstract to say, but I feel it. I felt that as a shift when I decided to try and start being that way. And nobody's perfect. Like, it's hard to live in a city and not feel like you're just like, you know, a piece of shit, you know what I mean? Destroying the fucking planet, you know? But there's little things that everybody can do. And even if it's just a plan that 3 years from now when you're not, or whatever, 5 years from now, or 10 years from now when you plan on having kids and you got your own land, that this is how I'm going to do it. That's okay. 10 years is a blink of an eye.
It is, man.
A blink of an eye. Now that I'm hitting 31, 32, and like that sounds cheesy as fuck, but like it's a blink of an eye. And as long as your plan is like to just be better and do less of an impact in the future, and you're slowly working towards that, good on you. Like, no one can tell you that you're not like helping, you know, or at least, you know, because 10 years goes by real fast, and then you'll be at that goal, and all of a sudden you'll have the house, and instead of being the guy that, you know, just goes the normal route, you've been spending the last 10 years thinking about it, planning it, taking notes, cultivating this idea, and then you're there and you're able to actually actualize you know, that type of lifestyle that you've wanted to work towards. And a lot of people say, oh, well, you can't just, you know, start a garden overnight and get solar panels from Tesla on the roof tomorrow. It's like, no, but you can 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Like, you can do anything from 10 years from now. Like, you know, put a little bit of budget towards that instead of like whatever else you do.
Yeah.
That doesn't help anybody.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not trying to preach on that too much, but I guess my point is like, as long as you're going in the direction of being as sustainable as possible, you actually run the world. You know what I mean?
You run your experience, at least,
straight up,
and therefore
there's no Illuminati, dude. It's people that are doing good things and people trying to make the world better and their own lives better so they can make other people's lives better and not asking for anybody's attention. Right. That's like, those are the people that run the planet.
Yeah.
In my world, at least.
Yes.
You know,
that's I think the correct way to think of it.
There's a narrative that's being pushed super hard that there's, you know, these people that are all seeing, all powerful. And,
well, I think that's the biggest conspiracy of all, is to convince people that there's a conspiracy and that you can have reigns over this rock that's speeding around a burning ball of gas in the middle of space.
Well, I'll double it down even one deeper on the conspiracy, and it's that true power that like controls like world banks and militaries. No one is ever going to see those faces, and there's never going to be anybody to blame, and we're never going to have lunch with those people to tell them how we feel. Like, it's old paradigm stuff, and they're slowly on their way out, and they're all going to die of colon cancer, and, you know, in the next 25, 30 years.
Specifically colon cancer.
You know what I mean? And like, the Koch brothers are dying off. Like, you know, it's old. That's an old operating system that they're suffering in their own ways, and they're making a lot of people on planet Earth suffer as well, but by their decisions and them hacking the code, and the social manipulation and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like, the way you can transcend any of their errors as humans is by being as autonomous as you humanly possibly can for yourself and for the people around you.
Fuck yeah.
And like that,
Preach.
and that's like, it's hard,
Yeah, it takes work.
It's not going to happen tomorrow.
That's the thing. I think that we've been, or society, I don't know how to say this, but most people who live that style of life have just been cowed kind of into like, oh, well, this is easy. I'll just go to work and then I'll get off and then I'll just be chilling.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to slip into that and it's comfortable, and
yeah.
And honestly, like, it's not wrong.
It's not wrong.
It's not wrong.
It's definitely not wrong.
It's been the scaffolding to get to where we're at,
Right.
But at a certain point, the scaffolding's got to come off, and we got to realize that, like, I mean, fuck, like, if you drive to work, chances are your job's going to be automated within the next like 20 years.
Yeah, there's that coming.
So like,
wow.
Not
That's
even to like freak
can of
anybody out, but it's like, I mean, in my opinion, no human should have to flip fucking burgers at McDonald's. Like, that's not even like a race thing. That's not even a class thing. That's nobody should have to do that type of work. But like, people also need to make money inside this system that we're a part of. So it's like, what do we do? It's like some people have to do that, unfortunately.
Right.
And
well, hopefully we're building a better system where people don't have to do that kind of shit.
I hope so.
Yeah. So yeah, transitioning. I'm just gonna do a total flip, man.
Yeah, do it, man. I end up going back in the same loops.
It's all good. Do you have a favorite tool in your arsenal, whether it's a material tool like a VST, or whether it's maybe even a personality trait or some sort of ideal to help you bring all these strands together and make this crazy tapestry?
I'd have to think about that. I don't know if I have a favorite one. There's so many. I'm so scattered with all the stuff that I do.
Yeah.
I mean, not scattered, but I mean just like spread,
Mm-hmm.
I would say this space, like in this building and specifically this room that we're in right now, my studio, it's my happy place for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to turn almost in like 360 and work on completely different art mediums at the same time, even if I want to. And that sounds like psychotic, but I'll be working on a graphic design and something will click and I'll have to like sketch something out for a piece of jewelry, or it's all, I'm using a lot of the same templates because I use the same motifs and the same coding and math and all of my work, so it all, there's background stuff that's going on that'll click when I'm working on different things. So this space really facilitates that for me. But yeah, I mean, my favorite thing is giant subwoofers. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but like,
no, man,
they're great and they're very special. And I mean, I blessed to my stepdad who raised me, carrying speakers since I was like 7 years old to
nice,
town dances and my sister's proms, and he would DJ all of it, or at least bring sound and stuff. And, I've always just had an interest in what that does to a room and the ability to just captivate a bunch of people and them have like the time of their lives and fall in love with each other and like deepen their friendships and just have these really special moments just because of these magnets. It's it's pretty abstract, but like that's really what it is. And
yeah, they're literally
electrical pulses going through magnets that's moving the air, and it's just like so crazy that can make babies, or like make people terrified for their lives,
or make people ecstatic,
or like by literally by going back and forth between literally two keys on the piano, the black keys and the white keys, like you can change the entire energy of a room. And that's super powerful science to me, and alchemy and magic. It's really, really powerful. And so big magnets, big really well tuned sound systems, is very special to my heart. Yeah. Because you're a painter. Imagine being only able to paint with the like 2 of the primary colors.
Yeah.
Your
You
whole
can't
life.
have red.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah, it'd be
they
weird.
just like, you just didn't have red.
Yeah.
And then you got to a certain point and then they were like, okay, now here's red.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like when you finally find like real sound systems or a place you hear this style of music, the sound system style of music on a properly tuned sound system in a properly tuned space or outside, you know. It changes something, you know. It's that same feeling I used to get when everybody would sing along to the guitar in like elementary school and high school, like one of our teachers would play guitar a lot. It's that same like unified feeling, everybody's singing the same thing, your body's vibrating, your diaphragm's vibrating. Bass just like forces that to happen
Into you, yeah.
and it makes the whole room feel that way.
Yeah.
And like there's something like when all the other music is creating this like captivating cinematic moment and the bass is like swelling, there's these chills that I get, and I know other people get it.
Sure.
You know, that are just like it's very special, and that look that, you know, you'll see people, they'll look over, you don't even know them, they'll look over you and they'll nod.
Yeah, you do the nod.
That's like, that's it right there. And like it's
Brings people
cliche,
together.
but there's a reason it's cliche. And
Right.
it's because it's so special. And, you know, that we're spoiled by that in Colorado. Like
We really
Colorado
are.
feels like a nod. Like Denver feels like the nod, like all day.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, you walk
wherever
down
you
the
go,
street,
there's
you're
someone like,
you know, what's up?
Yep. Everything's going according to plan.
Yeah.
Like it's like, what the hell? Like everybody's in on it.
It's
Like,
an unwritten
everybody's here as an
conspiracy.
artist. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that's interesting. Like, you know, and that's special. Everybody's working 3 jobs so that they can spend another 40 hours in the studio or whatever.
Exactly.
Like working gigs so they can do it, you know? And I don't know. I've had so many. I'm sure you know. We barely even see each other. Like we've had so many people move out here and like, oh, like I never even see anybody. Like, yeah, man. Like we're all in the studio. We're all working.
Right,
we're all
exactly.
full-time artists now.
Exactly.
And there aren't many places in the country that are it's possible to do that anymore.
Right.
Where there's people that'll like come over and be like, yeah, sure, I'll buy your $2,000 painting. Fuck it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? That's crazy, but it happens.
Pretty awesome.
It's pretty awesome.
Really grateful to be here, man. So you're talking about moving to Denver. Maybe we should talk about the first time we met and hung out.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I mean, I remember my first memory of like getting to know you.
Uh-huh.
Maybe you remember the first time we ever hung out, but I feel like it was like after Sonic Bloom 2013. John brought me to your house,
Right.
y'all's house.
Yes.
And yeah, that was my first time this far. Well, I've been to California a couple times, but this was my first time in Colorado. Drove out here with Andy Reid, represent the ledge.
What up, Andy?
Yeah, we know you're listening. We know you're out there. You can't hide.
We're coming for you.
Yeah, we know. We know where you are. But yeah, no, I came out here 2013. We did the Sonic Bloom thing, fell in love with Colorado, met a bunch of amazing people who are still very good, close friends that year there. And then ended up at y'all's place because I had just known John through the music scene, through Lost and Sound and stuff, and he had played some shows in Boston, and yeah, I mean, he spoke very highly of you, and I was sure I'll come over and hang out, and then we ended up kicking it, and you guys basically convinced me that rather than go back to, I mean, partially, it was you guys and a couple other people, that rather than go back to Boston, that I should just continue on my trip west with Andy and then move out here once I got back to Boston, you know? And, and I did immediately after that. That's exactly what I did. Went back and packed up all my stuff and came back out. And it was definitely the most important thing I did was come to a place where there's people that can relate to the weird abstract art forms that we're working with, and
Sure.
and it's not that abstract here.
It's not.
You know?
It's just kind of a.
It's a language.
It's a language. Yeah, I was gonna say. It's
when
kind of like a
abstract
slang.
is a language, that's like they don't get it. The cigar smokers don't get it. You know what I mean? They're all, I don't know, sure, fine, whatever. They don't get what's going on below the surface level of it, which is actually like by looking at these paintings that you guys are doing, like you're liberating people's perspective, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe that's blowing too much smoke up y'all's ass.
Well, but I also
it's like,
think the same thing about sound too.
Sure.
Even more
Absolutely.
powerfully, really.
Yep.
I mean,
that's hijacking it.
well, I'll say it like this: sound just hits you right in the moment, whereas like a painting, it might take a few weeks of like checking it out over and over
True.
again. and yeah, one's more visceral, one's more vision, like eye, kind of mind. But I guess if you got the visceral going, like, you're going to affect the mind, and if you got the mind going, you're going to affect the body.
Absolutely. I mean, there's definitely the overlap there with all of it. I mean, I always say, like, when you turn around, you can still hear music, but when you turn around, you can't see the painting anymore.
Sure.
So it takes your visual focus to perceive it.
Right.
But once it has you captivated, there's information underlaying all of it. As you know, like, the high level people are all layering perspective lines and grid lines that you're not seeing on the top.
Right.
You know, or with you're using icons and concepts that you're combining to tell a story. And it's a vague, abstract story. Maybe it's specific to you, but to the viewer, it can tell anything. It can tell anything.
Right.
You know. But yeah, I think the same thing. Absolutely, with music, you know, the same thing can be said. With all art, I mean.
Sure.
It's there.
Sure.
For sure.
So yeah, shifting gears a little bit again, I heard you mention, like, you know, that subwoofers and sound systems are kind of your favorite tool. Do you want to talk a little bit about maybe the similarities and differences between like the sound system cultures of or maybe even just the history of sound system culture, really?
Sure. I mean, I can only speak on to what I've pieced together. I wasn't there for any of it, you know what I mean? And I almost don't even have a right to go too deep into it. But I do know my roots, and that's like a huge point of the style of music that I hold dear and that I like to create, is knowing the roots of it. And I mean, modern electronic music would not exist if it wasn't for the original music producers of Jamaica, like King Tubby and the likes. And that was, you know, early 70s. I still play tracks from the early 70s that hold up to what's being made now, you know.
Sure.
The equipment was the equipment that they were given and that they had access to was almost better than what's available now to most people, because we're using algorithms and laptops, whereas they were using,
like,
at the time, live mixing board, reverbs, delays that were analog, compressors that were analog, all built in the USA, you know. Not in a nationalism kind of way, but, like, you know, that's the originator of a lot of these technologies at the time. But a really amazing documentary that I think everybody should watch is Dub Echoes, and it's on YouTube, and it's an hour long. And if you want to know how reggae music became dub music and dance hall, which then became drum and bass, which then became dubstep and jungle, and then has then subgenred out into a million fractures from there. I don't know. I feel like a genre doesn't really exist until it's been around for 10 years. I try not to, like, if people are like, oh, I make a weird slash, like left field slash, like, it's like, dude, you just make bass music. You make sound system music. Just say that, because like, it hasn't been around for 10 years yet. And until you can, like, look at the genius of, like, the genres and how they split off from, like, 10 years out, it's kind of just pretentious, and you're just trying to like be too much of an artist about it.
Put a little badge on your cap.
Exactly. Just zoom out a little bit. It's sound system music. I like to say sound system music, because what that implies is how you're supposed to hear it, and not, like, whether it's going to be worth your money or your time, which is what most genres are. It's like, you don't want to waste your time in the record store looking through blues if you're trying to find hip hop. You know what I mean? That's where it all came from. Like, at the end of the day, if it's music, you should just listen to it. And if you don't like it, it's not for you. You know what I mean? It doesn't need to be a word attached to it.
True,
people that are like genreists, like, gross me out. But
same.
That's a deep rabbit hole.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's I got sidetracked, but
no, that's all good. So yeah, we were talking history of kind of sound system. You kind of broke it down. The genres sort of.
Yeah, I mean, that's evolved. That's the lineage. I mean, the source is as far as electronic music production and like tape cutting and that whole world, Jamaica, you know, early 70s, and that's all rooted in that deep struggle of what went down on that island. And the sound system culture, from what I've gathered in my research, and was started because they modified amplifiers to make them be able to hit these lower frequencies, these bass frequencies, 30, 40 hertz. And they would go out Saturday night, the crews with the sound systems would set up, and they would have DJs from all the different crews, rival gangs, like everything. They'd all come through, and they would play, and everybody would get along.
Right.
And it would bring the whole city together, or that part of the city, or wherever it was, together. And that's, you know, autonomy. That's that autonomous zone. Right. You know, that's unity. That's like, that's what they say. Sound system is unity, you know, like,
right.
It's
growing your own garden.
That's the church though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Church
like that's,
too.
it's, and out of that, they had what was called toasters and MCs, and they would, you know, while they were flipping that, they weren't using two turntables, they were using one turntable.
Right.
And that turntable was playing acetate that was cut that day or very recently from any one of these reggae studio producers that had the samples and the stems from the reggae bands, and they would do a new version that had no vocals, and
they'd have the chatter on
exactly. They do the reverb and the delay tails, and just get really psychotropic and you know, embed that ganja information in all of it and like get real trippy, and like that is still being used, and like, you know, those techniques, they developed that, and they used these tools that were once just something you'd set and then run a vocal through as like an instrument, and they started using the studio gear as an instrument. And you know, they'd burn these acetates, and they'd go out and play it that night, and they'd burn them, they'd cut the acetates, and the MCs would toast, and
toasting. I mean, that basically led into hip hop. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Exactly.
DJ Kool Herc.
Exactly. We wouldn't have any of that if it wasn't for where it kind of originated there. And, you know, I'm just a white boy from the United States. I don't know shit, but I've done everything I can
but you've
to
done
understand.
Research. You may have not been there.
Yeah, I wasn't there, but I've done my research, and I feel as though if you're going to dabble with certain types of music that are deeply traditional, that you should absolutely do your research and know what you're talking about.
Sure.
And, you know, I'm not quoting exact dates and people because of that. I don't want to sound like a fool. I already do enough. So, know your roots of all music. You know, if you're into a certain style of music, figure out what it was that inspired those people. A lot of times it could be even non-musical. And if you're an artist, you know, combining inspirations that are outside of your wheelhouse and outside of your medium is super important in order to have an outcome that isn't similar to other people's.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's unique, you know?
I've been asking people that recently on the podcast, what other either films, books, you know, stories, visual artists, like who are you inspired by in realms that you don't actually work in? I mean, I know you kind of touch a lot, but
there's so many, man.
Yeah.
Couple that come to mind. Main one's Mobius. Love that guy. I don't know if you guys know Gerard Mobius, illustrator. The guy did concept art that inspired a bunch of movies, like Star Wars, like all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
He's very like desert, peyote, sci-fi,
future.
Yeah, minimal. Like it's clean, and he was ahead of the game, and it's all very well illustrated, and tons of use of negative space.
Yeah,
very minimal stuff, but also tells a story. There's another guy that I follow, a few guys that I follow that are they're concept artists. So they combine really cool visual concepts and make like storyboard style art. They do it all with the tablet too in Photoshop. It's incredible. This one guy, Simon Stollenhag, is a legendary dude. Shouts to the homie Ian Craftle. He got me one of his books for my birthday.
Oh, nice.
He snuck it into my bed. I had no idea who got it for me for like a week. But amazing storyteller with his concept art, and it's all done with a tablet and Photoshop, and they look like paintings. They're incredible. And then Mr. Werewolf is another guy that's like amazing storyteller. Peter Grick. I really like the sci-fi gothic styles that he's doing in like that world. Of course, Geiger.
Yeah.
Very big inspiration for my metal work and for my music. Just playing with pseudo like fear and pseudo demonic style music or art to make people come to grips with their inner demons, and myself to come to grips with it and to dance with that instead of like running from it, hiding from it, which can be bad. Yeah, I mean, and then I guess, everybody in this building, everybody, like, I've tried to, like, don't tell them, but I've tried to, like, curate.
They'll never hear.
Yeah.
They won't hear.
And I've tried to curate an ecosystem around myself of people that inspire me, and whether it's Chris or Ali or Alex and or Rob and any of them, Zach and Mark, and it's never a dull moment here.
Sure.
And everybody's on some epic next level cutting edge project with not enough funding, so they're just like bitter and jaded, and they're gonna make it better than anybody else will. So it's like I love it. Like, that's what makes good art, is like, having a little fire under your ass. Like there's plenty of, like, no offense if you're one of these people, but there's plenty of kids that grew up with a ton of money that make mediocre art. You know what I mean? But the world needs, there's nothing more dangerous than an intelligent person with no resources. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if that person's making art with that, like, tension and, like, then that's speaking to people, and that's making a change, in my opinion. And that's why I love everybody here, because they have a fire under their ass. And, like, I'm truly, truly inspired by everybody that's in this space and just what's going on in Denver. Like, I could not, like, if I just looked at an Instagram feed of just artists in Denver, like, I wouldn't get bored.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, if you didn't tell me, it would be even better. Like, if you didn't tell me it was only Denver, you know? I'd just be like, damn, like, what's going on? What's in the water? I think what it is like most people don't have to go to a 9 to 5 every single day.
Yeah.
And they have the time to let an idea percolate and develop, and they can do their homework, and they can do 20 pieces that work to have that one that's like, yup, that's the one. It takes those 20. I fucking know, man. I've been producing for 5 years, and I just barely released my first EP. There's 100 tracks that are dead on my hard drive that could have been cool, and not even saying the ones that I released are, anything like more than just notable and a good benchmark for myself, but it takes all that time and focused energy, and not having to go to a 9 to 5 and having, dude, if you're one of the people, if you're listening to this, you're one of the people who supports the art by buying it with the money that you earn in one way or another, or that you have.
Thank you so much.
Because, like, there's no support out there in the rest of the world. It is just a void of, like, oh, you make art? Good luck. Oh, what do you do for a living?
That'll
like,
never pay the bills.
And, I mean, we've all had to, at the end of the day, we all got to get our knees dirty in one way or another.
Sure.
But I'd rather be, it on my own terms, and, like, when I go to work AV gigs or corporate gigs, I'm going to work. I'm making a choice to be there, and, like, it's a thought out thing. I'm sure you do. You do your trim stuff, and, like, you got to go to do that so that you can make your art without it having too much of a financial pressure on it. But
I just spent like close to $1,000 on this new studio that I got.
Nice.
Putting up all this insulation by myself.
Yep. Done that. Been there. Fun stuff.
Yeah.
It's a good project,
but
though.
I just finished it yesterday, and I feel like $1 million.
Yeah.
So basically, I invested $1,000 to feel like $1 million.
There you go. Well, it's crazy what happens when, like, you've trained yourself to make it work with nothing, and then when you put gas in the machine from your other, revenue streams, like, I don't know, art, as much as it'll, like, support us, unless you are investing, it's like having a gold mine, you know? It's like owning a gold mine. But if there's no one there to work it and no one there to sift through all the silt and shit, you're never going to get any gold out of it.
Right.
And the only way to do that is to have money up front to pay everybody.
Right.
You know? So
money for the dynamite.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You know? And people don't, you know, old gold miners don't like to work for free. You know,
no,
so the main thing the last 5 years for me is like developing as many different revenue streams as possible so that I can have my bills taken care of, and then whatever extra I have, I inject into the gold mine.
Right.
You know, and it turns out little nuggets here and there, and sometimes it turns out nothing.
Right.
But eventually, I know that there's gold under there. You know what I mean? And it's guaranteed. So you know, I just got to keep putting gas into that machine and keep paying the old gold miners their healthy wage.
Yeah.
And when the gold miners are paid well, they tend to not pocket the gold.
Yeah.
You know.
Meaning you
guys can take
as
that
the gold miner. Yeah.
You take that metaphor however you.
There's this funny thing I say to people when I'm like, oh man, I'm low on money. I gotta talk to my primary employer, which is myself.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and I mean it's definitely a thing. Like,
yeah,
I've learned the word cash poor as an artist.
Ah, yeah,
cash poor. I'm a little cash poor right now, but I'm willing to offer some sort of value to the scenario. You know, there's that sentence right there, very powerful. It's not it's a little humiliating, but if you're a little cash poor, chances are you should be a little humiliated, and you should just be grinding more.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I'm fucking cash poor right now, and I grind it all day. You know,
Yep.
It happens. We all have these investments, and in our art and in our equipment and in our tools and all this, that goes a long way. And but that's just like that's the gold mine. You have to have a way to turn it all on. You know, so that's all I hope for anybody. All I can say is figure out as many revenue streams as possible. Yeah, because you have to play this game if you're going to be in America. You have to. Yeah. There's no way around not playing it. You'll end up in jail or, you know, on your knees more than you need to be.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And I think maybe one of the goals, at least for me, is freedom. So it's.
What is that? Isn't that autonomy? Like
that is autonomy. Autonomy. Yeah. So that, like you work for yourself still. I'm trying to just kind of paraphrase what you just said. Yeah. So you still work for yourself, but no one's there who can really just, you know, cut the flow off. Right. You don't have a job. You're not like beholden to a job.
Right. If you put all your chips on relying on some external system to provide for you, what happens if tomorrow a solar flare wipes everything out? What skills do you have?
Right.
To like provide value to yourself and the people around you.
And by working for yourself, you'll develop more skills than you ever thought you could.
Just the confidence of knowing you can do anything.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Super important. I think that's robbed from most people that have been going to a 9-to-5 every day since they got out of high school or college. Mm-hmm. Not everybody.
Yeah, not everybody.
Shouts to everybody that's been doing that and being a sick artist at the same time.
Yeah.
A couple of my roommates are in that boat, you know, like I have so much more respect for those people than I do myself. Like if you're grinding at a 9-to-5 and getting home and putting out amazing next level work and channeling all that in, good on you, mate.
Yeah. What other advice would you give someone who's just starting out or is feeling stuck? Anything else besides just kind of taking all those strands and like putting them back into the art?
Three things.
Yeah.
3 things.
Let's do it. Let's hear it.
Get a daily planner. Quit lying to yourself and get a daily planner. Physical exercise is the answer. Quit lying to yourself.
Speak.
And surround yourself by people that are better than you at the things that you're excited by.
Those are solid, man.
And you'll never. I haven't depression and anxiety are the result of not getting enough exercise and not eating the right foods and not drinking enough water and not having sleep. They are not things that you are. You know, as much as doctors will tell us that, they're not things that you are. They're symptoms of a lack of sustenance in certain ways. Mm-hmm. And this will be my last thing that I say. I firmly believe that everything that's wrong with the world is a matter of people not having their basic needs met as humans, and that conversation you could have for 5 hours what are basic needs.
For sure.
But it needs to be had. And if we can all, wherever you are, focus on figuring out at least how to just have a little bit more compassion towards other people that don't have their needs met in that moment,
right,
then you can understand why it is they're being a giant annoying bastard. You know?
Yeah.
Because when people don't have their needs met, they get real
cranky,
divisive. They get divisive.
Yeah.
And we're being taught every day by the media what devices we can use in order to like trigger people or destroy a conversation or whatever it is. And you know, just figuring out that was huge for me. You know, people are they're suffering in one way or another. Everybody, no matter how good off they seem, you know. So figuring out how to accept that and maybe fill in a hole somewhere for them. You know?
Yeah, help out, give what you can.
Yeah, what is it that you're missing, you know? If you can, like, what is it that this person's missing that's making them act this way, you know? Because then it's like, oh shit, like they're just like me. You know, instead of like this, what happens is your brain turns on this self-defense mechanism that is for survival. That's a dehumanization of potential threats, and that's where a lot of these isms come from. And it's when you feel threatened, or when someone feels threatened by another person or another thing or an animal or whatever, they dehumanize it and they turn it into something that's fightable.
Right.
You know? And
you roboticize people, like we were talking about earlier. So if you're
feeling dehumanized by someone, chances are they're desperate.
Right.
In one way or another for something.
They're severely lacking in some sort of life nutrition.
And that's not your fault.
They're vitamins.
It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility and our responsibility to see that, because then you can react accordingly and you can treat them like a child instead of like an adult, because they're not being an adult. You know? Right. But I could go on forever about that shit. So I appreciate you initiating this conversation and doing what you're doing. It's super inspiring, and
dude, thank you.
Everybody should be doing this. If you have interesting friends, you know, A, hit up Andrew if you're an artist, and B, you know, record conversations and sit and have intentful conversations with people and share that, because
absolutely
there isn't enough of that happening.
Well, yeah, we're basically just trying to do that and let everybody know about all our friends who are doing really cool things.
It's crazy, man.
So
the best time ever to be alive, no matter what anybody says.
Hell yeah. Well, thanks, man. Let people know where they can find you real quick.
Yeah,
I'll do it at the top, too.
I'm easy to find. I'm probably the most annoying person on the internet, so
just search the most annoying person.
Yeah, most annoying man on the internet. Yeah. Everything's under Digital Vagabond everywhere. That's the moniker. And
gotcha.
Instagram, Facebook, SoundCloud, Christian Mingles. Definitely
LinkedIn.
Not LinkedIn. No, I don't have a LinkedIn.
But on Christian Mingle.
I only have a LinkedIn just to add a ton of people, like, randomly.
Yeah. Just in case.
Yeah, you never know.
All that multiple, streams of income.
I'm only on LinkedIn to communicate directly with Meow Wolf's CEO.
Nice.
No, I don't.
So if you're listening.
Oh yeah. Well, I appreciate everybody listening in, and definitely listen to all the other episodes that Andrew's done, because he's interviewed some really awesome people, and their brains are overlooked in a lot of ways, and we should all be hearing how the inner workings of all that works.
Well, thanks, Pat. And yeah, you got some shows coming up on November 1st through 3rd.
Yep. Ogden, Bluebird, and the Fox Theater. I'm doing 3 shows, opening all 3.
Nice.
And
come out.
Yeah, come out. And then, if you're in the neighborhood and you know Chris Bull, on the 1st, he's got his private gallery opening. I'm sorry, the second. Yeah,
no worries.
I'm so glad you're here. Yeah, Saturday the 2nd, he's got his private gallery opening, and you can RSVP for that. You just find Chris Bull on the internet. Art of Bull guy.
We'll tag everything in the show notes, and I'll also send things at the top with the intro to make sure everybody knows what's up. But yeah, thank you again, man. I'm sure we'll have you back on. You need to meet John too.
Love it, yeah, definitely. And we could, maybe the next one we'll try and do it with some cameras and do some videos. Live stuff.
Yeah. So a little teaser there for you guys. Thank you guys.
All right.
We love you. We love you. Thanks for listening to another episode of Artsy AF Podcast.
For additional images and notes on this episode, you can check out our website, artsyafpodcast.com.
And you can find me, Andrew Norris, at andrew.norris.arts on Instagram. And andrewnorrisarts.com is my website. I also have links on my website to episodes as well as all my best paintings.
And you can find me, John Speaker. My website is johnspeaker.com. On Instagram, I'm at John Speaker, and on Facebook, John Speaker Art.
Thanks again for listening. Peace.
Thank you.